We are back with part 2 of this conversation we're having about sales. We really think this is helpful information. You know, I know personally if somebody...
If it's not, we don't care.
I know if it was me 9 years ago, or even longer, I've been in the business 18 years, so I'm a lot older than you. And
13. It's only 5.
All right, fair enough.
I mean, maybe difference of freshman to senior. So
if somebody would have slapped me around and told me some of these things, I think it would have made a big difference for me instead of learning it the hard way. Sometimes the hard way is the one that sticks, but I think if somebody, takes this serious, it could make a big difference.
Yeah. And so my older brother, is 7 years older than I am, and he's the one that got me into the business. So I had somebody that slapped me around, and my biggest one, kind of off subject, that he told me coming into the mortgage world and business world in general, is his one rule was always do the right thing.
I love that.
No matter what, always do the right thing. If you don't, it will always be found out. It's never worth it. And I've always, even to the littlest thing, I throw a stupid piece of paper on the ground, I miss the trash can, I'll take 3 steps and act like I'm going to keep walking, and I'm like, no. So, and if you see me at Sprouts or something and I don't take the shopping cart, this does not count with that. But that was the biggest thing that always stands out to me, and any inclination. And I told, my teammate just came, she's new to the industry, is the same thing I told her. In this world, nothing is worth it.
Yeah.
So
no one follows.
Always do the right thing every single time.
I love it. As a recap from last time, one of my biggest lessons was around surrender. And around surrendering to a blueprint that's already there. I think you can always deviate for your own creativity and your own growth. But at the same time, it's important to find out how somebody's already done it and follow that blueprint. I mean, trial and error, Tyler, you got to listen to this.
Yeah.
You listening?
Yeah.
Okay. Trial and error has been the biggest overhead cost in my business.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's how I used to run my business. I would try things, they would fail. And I do. There's people that have already tried them.
Yep.
Right? So yours was quality over quantity. Mm-hmm. What would you say what's the second thing that you think you realized?
I mean, I think kind of similar to that is I think we've all learned, and I'm a coach's son, so I take all these corny statements to heart, in your case, and kind of piggyback on yours, is it's okay to make mistakes. So we're going to make mistakes, especially when you're trying to figure out ways of doing it. I think one curve that's always been a factor too is it's okay to make mistakes, but never make the same mistake twice. So making sure that when we make mistakes, and in our world, man, mistakes are big mistakes. Big mistakes that you miss, families are involved, homes are involved, lots of people are involved in what we do. My first deal that I ever did on the phone was a refinance. Guy cut his credit cards up on the phone, and I cried to my brother, which he made fun of me for, which I still think is a little bit rude.
Really cried?
But I cried. I was like, I have no clue what I'm doing. I was like, I hope I did a good thing, because it is even on a refinance, and it's something that I think that I'm lucky to it be that heavy, is what we do is a big deal.
Yeah.
And you take it to heart, and there's people in every industry that don't do it for those reasons.
Yeah.
But the not being okay with making mistakes, and I'm super prideful. That's a bad characteristic of mine. So it's hard to admit mistakes. And especially since I moved to our new company, I mean, I've tried to be coachable and be okay to make those mistakes and learn from them and not make them twice.
Yeah, this is a tense environment. Most people are making the largest purchase of their life.
Largest and longest, as we call it.
So even the coolest and calmest cats, you get them involved in the mortgage process, everything could be going pretty smooth, and it's still a tense and stressful situation. I mean, these are life decisions they have to make. That closing date means a lot. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 domino houses happening right after that.
There's always a truck outside the title company.
That's right.
Well, that does happen.
It really does.
You pull one up, and you're like, there we go.
Yeah. And so it's just important, and there's so many variables and so many stars that have to line up. To be honest, I mean, it's job security, right? It's our job to make sure those stars do line up. But at the same time, it is pressure on us too, and we do make mistakes. And I tell my team the same thing. I'm like, you're gonna make mistakes. The best thing to do is just fess up and correct it as soon as we can.
And I think the trial by error thing you're talking about, I think that's something I learned early in the industry as well. Is, I mean, mistakes are going to happen, but you can't hide from them. And there's people that have done this for 30 years that hide from them. And I've never understood it, because, I mean, it hurts to get bad information out, but it hurts a lot more to sit on it.
Yeah.
and not get it out. So, I mean, pulling that Band-Aid out, anytime there's bad news is received well quicker.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that's a pretty cool thing that you've based it on. Like, that's one that I wouldn't have stood out as a, like, first option on, hey, what have you learned the most? But, you know, being okay with making mistakes it takes a while to get comfortable with that.
Yeah. I remember a total different topic, going snowboarding, learning the first time. The first thing you learn is how to fall.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what you have to learn in this business as well, too, is you got to learn how to fall so that you can learn how to get back up right away.
Little Batman quote. I don't know if you guys caught that in here. Get me in, like, see if we can have him edit it, get me in like a well or something. And what is his name? Not Clark. Clark Kent is Superman. What
Bruce
is
Wayne?
Yeah, Bruce. What do we do, bro? What do we do, Bruce? And then Alfredo's like, I'm the Batman.
So the second...
I had no childhood. I watched a lot of movies growing up. I'm sorry. And don't take that wrong, Mom. I had a great childhood. You were fabulous, but watched a lot of TV.
So the second thing, back on track here, the second thing that I would say that's super important, write this one down. It's a simple equation. Okay. Structure plus accountability equals results.
There you go.
Sounds simple, right?
Yeah.
Right? But it's true. How often do we go and we listen to something like this, or we go to a conference, or we read a book and we're like, oh man, that makes perfect sense. I'm going to go implement it.
Yep.
And then we implement it and then it just fades away.
Yep.
Right? If you do not add a layer of accountability to everything that you do in your business, it will fade away.
And I think you learn, you know, we both are the religious type. We do the church thing.
Sure.
The big thing in accountability is having someone else to help keep you accountable. I think it's very hard to, like, we can, I mean, because we're adults,
Yep.
You can keep yourself accountable, but I think it's very helpful to surround yourself with people that you can trust to genuinely keep you accountable. Like, my VP is really good at that. He's really good at going, hey, you're being stupid.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're thinking wrong. There'll be times where I'll literally just email him and be like, hey, here's how I feel about this situation.
Yeah.
Is this good, or is this me being goofy sometimes? And he'll either be like, no, I agree, or yeah, you need to go back and change your thought process. And I think that's huge.
For sure. And going back to my first point, I didn't come up with that, right?
Yeah.
I learned that. I learned that in a coaching program that I was in called The Core.
Okay. Yeah.
I learned it in there from somebody that was speaking on stage. And I've applied it, and it's completely changed my business, right? Now, accountability can be anything. It could be, like, for example, I have a morning meeting in the mornings. If I want anything to continue to happen, I have it reported to me in that morning meeting every morning. So by creating that transparency, all of a sudden you're accountable to your team, you're accountable to each other, and even if you have a peer in the business, you're accountable to them too.
Yep.
So,
and I think, you know, matching on that too, like accountability, like I really like that. And I'm corny and like the corny, like that's my thing.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, vulnerability is a big thing in business too that I think's big. You know, especially, you know, with the topic of salespeople, like the more vulnerable you can be, I think the more genuine you can be. And I think we get so just in I don't know if not environment's not the word, but just in socialization in general, you're always afraid. And I'm probably the curve on this one is that everything comes out of my mouth. I'm emotions on my sleeve. I'm going to tell you how I feel. You ask my opinion, you're going to get it, whether it's business appropriate or not. But that's my thing. Like that's where you show, you know, that's consistent. Like that's never changed. And I think being vulnerable as a salesperson to the core, depending on what your product is, relating with the customer is super important on, you know, going back to what we were talking about earlier is gaining trust. And I think vulnerability equals trust, but I like that 3-step process that you're talking about. And I think the implementation, if I can speak right today, is the big part of that. And then following it up with that accountability for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, if you guys have any questions about any of the things that we talked about, our end goal here is that this helps you somehow.
Yep.
Right? Our end goal is that you take one bit of this and it helps your business, that you share it with somebody. Our other podcasts have been about giving information of the current, you know, market, but ultimately all of it is to try to get information out to you so that it's helpful for you.
Yeah, from a selfish perspective, I think, you know, Alfredo and I are going to learn quite a bit. Like, I already learned a couple stuff today. You know, learning about your business I think is pretty cool. And the further we go through this, I think this will be some fun interaction, and hopefully we'll be funny. We'll get Alfredo to liven up a little bit, make a joke, maybe get his mustache back. That might bring out that pizzazz we need. So when we do these in November, hopefully we'll get some mustachio going up there. But Hopefully everybody's taken to it so far. It's been so good. This is a big thing for us too, to kind of take this part in our week, kind of get them in here and spend some time together. And it's obviously very important to both of us. So we appreciate your guys' support, pressing that like button, doing that share button. Heart buttons are appreciated, obviously.
We like the hearts.
No laughing buttons because that's rude. A wow every once in a while would be okay. I'm okay with some wows.
What about the tier one?
That's okay. Maybe if it's like the last episode, like touching. Which I don't know. No poking. Is poking still on Facebook? Poke us. So. Poke Alfredo and Tyler VanBeber for this podcast. If you appreciate this, we want to see lots of pokes.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.
All right, check you guys later.